G'day, Josh here with another Chess Rush video, and in this video I want to go through a little bit of a rehash because I touched on this a couple of seasons ago, but essentially how damage works in Chess Rush. It is a little bit different in Season 5 in that there's no additional damage taken if you get past a certain round in game modes, and Oceanborn, the combo for Oceanborn, has also been reverted back to magic resistance, which has introduced that back into the game because there was no real way to manage that apart from equipping the resistance cloaks to heroes. So let's jump into the codex and talk about the different types of damage, starting off with physical damage. If we click on Bangar here, his default auto attack, you can see his attack damage is 157. That is his physical damage. Every time he attacks, he's going to be dealing 157 damage if you ignore anything else that might limit that. Now, the next sort of damage is magic damage, and that is essentially ability damage. Any ability deals magic damage by default, and it says that here in his Pounce ability. Bangar leaps foot towards the farthest enemy and strikes 3 times, dealing a total of however much magic damage. So by default, auto attacks are physical damage, abilities are magic damage unless stated otherwise. And the third type of damage is true damage. So physical damage deals physical damage, and that can be mitigated, or that amount can be lowered by armor. Magic damage is abilities, and that amount can actually be lowered by magic resist, such as the Oceanborn combo. And finally, there is true damage, which I just touched on. So let's go across to Nightingale here, because she actually does true damage. She has a passive ability. Her ability, Soul Blade. Each attack deals 33, 66, or 100 true damage and reduces target's mana by the same amount. So not only is it a very useful utility, but her attack being true damage means that she actually ignores armor and magic resist. So her true damage goes straight through to the target's HP, and there's no way of lowering that amount. So anytime you see a hero saying true damage, and if we go all the way across, in fact it might just be quicker for me to just look for voids, to Void Doom, his ability Void Meteor is massive. It's quite a big 4%, 6%, or 15%, and it's true damage. It deals true damage equal to that percentage of their maximum HP. So their armor, their magic resist will have no impact on that whatsoever. Now, the best way that I want to show you how these things work is by actually jumping into a game. Because we have the replay functions, let me find a recent replay that I have downloaded. There we go. We're going to jump into this game, and we're going to be able to pause, slow down, and actually have a look at the exact values in game, because they're not quite as simple as they might first appear. And what I'm going to be looking at here is specifically armor and magic resist. And it's worth noting that by default, no heroes have magic resist, unless you're giving them a magic resist with a combo like Oceanborn or with an item like Resistance Cloak. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit pause. We're going to slow it down to 0.25. We're going to jump straight to the battle phase. And you'll notice as I hit pause here, Nightingale is about to take damage. She hasn't been engaged by that boar yet, but by default, Nightingale has... actually, I'm not sure why she has magic resistance. That might be a little bit of a replay bug, so let's use Frost Lotus. There we go. She has 0 magic resist, which is the default normal, and she has 15 armor. Now, 15 armor is equal to 13% of what the max armor for Frost Lotus is. So every hero has a different max level of armor, and I don't know what those values are. It's a little bit hard to work out, but essentially the value 15 does not equate to 15%. With magic resist, as we can actually use this little bug to show you, 30 magic resist is 30% magic resistance. So that means that if a hero has 100 magic resist, then they are blocking all magic damage, which I don't believe there is any way to get that in the game currently, but who knows. But if we go back here, so Frost Lotus has no magic resist, the default for heroes. She has 15 armor, which for her means she's going to be taking 13% less physical damage. So when this boar, who has 85 damage, well, it's actually 80 to 90, but the average is 85. So you can see that every attack will be somewhere in between 80 and 90. When that boar engages with Frost Lotus, whatever that attack roll is, and we don't know what it is, it's hidden behind the scenes, but on average it'll be 85. that won't fully go through to Frost Lotus. So if we hit play here and try and catch this, there we go. So perfect. So in this case, 75 damage has gone through to Frost Lotus. And that's because whatever the value was between 80 and 90, 13% of that was reduced further because of Frost Lotus's armor. And therefore, she's only taken 75 damage. She's gone down from 1500 HP to 1425 HP. And obviously, if you were to give her armor, then that would increase that value and she would take even less damage from each auto attack. Now, creeps themselves don't have abilities, so they're not dealing magic damage. Maybe some of the later creeps do, I can't remember off the top of my head, but these early round creeps definitely don't do any magic damage. It's all just physical damage. But as you progress through, you'll be facing other heroes. In fact, we can skip through a few rounds here to round 3 when we have other heroes on the board. It's also worth noting that many of these effects, like the effects that items give, so if we click on Flamecaller here, actually it does show her attack speed buff, but many of the effects, either via combos or items, won't actually show up until the battle has started, and then they will take effect. So for instance, Bionic Ninja here, if we pause this, because of the Cyborg combo, actually has 95 armor up, which for this particular character is equal to 48% physical damage reduction. So essentially, every auto attack that comes through and hits this Bionic Ninja, he's almost negating half of it with his armor, his default armor, and the armor bonus that he's getting from Cyborg. So that is that's pretty significant. But you can see there that it is a sliding scale. 95 armor doesn't mean 95%. For this particular hero, 95 armor is 48%. And if we have a look, well, we've actually already seen Frost Lotus, 15 armor is 13%. Flamecaller has 20 armor, which is 16% for her. Steel Fist has 30 armor, which is 23%. And finally, Lancelot has 25 armor, which is 20% for Lancelot. As the armor up value increases, the percentage will as well, but it's not a perfect match, so just keep that in mind. The only thing that's a perfect match is magic resist. Now, I would like to skip through to when I actually get 3 sorcerers happening. So let's keep an eye on my combos here. Let's skip through rounds. At some point, I will have 3 sorcerers on the board. It hasn't happened yet. In fact, I've still only got 2. It's a long way into the game, and I haven't got 3 sorcerers yet. There we go. 3 sorcerers are now on the board, so I'm going to hit pause again here. And what that means, if we look at the Dark Mage here, it won't show it yet because the round hasn't started. That was weird. So let's click on him again. His ability power is currently 0 in terms of the extra damage that it will do. So by default, he's a 1-star. He's going to be doing 600 magic damage every time his tornado bounces around the screen. But when we actually go to the start of the battle, which we're doing here, and as soon as they jump, I will hit pause. There we go. It's still on 0.25 speed. Now if I click on here, now that the round has begun, the 3 sorcerer combo has taken effect, and now he's getting a 40% bonus to his ability power. Now, you can see that in green here, it's gone up from 600 to 840 damage. So the 3 sorcerer combo, which of course for those that weren't aware, increases ability power by 40%, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. His ability power is increasing by 40, which is exactly 40%. So anything to do with abilities or magic damage is out of 100%. An increase of 40 equals 40%. It's just armor that does not equate so nicely. So armor's a little bit more difficult to work out, but essentially the more armor you have, the better you're going to be. So we can see this 2-star General of War here currently has 15 armor actually. He might be getting an armor debuff. Yeah, the other team has 2 undead. We can see a stinger there, and there's probably we can see a famine there, and there'll be a stinger somewhere that I just can't see it. Oh no, Misfortune's the other undead. So there's a bit of a armor debuff happening. So my General of War's armor is down to 15, but that's fine. He's still got armor. He's still reducing any damage taken. So we've talked about the different types of damage: physical, ability, and true damage. True damage being the optimal because it avoids anyone actually blocking that with magic resist or armor. We've talked about the ways to mitigate physical damage with armor and magical damage with magic resist, and how to also increase your ability or magic damage with something like the sorcerer combo. And then the other thing that I want to talk about, if we can actually leave this now. So let's jump back out here. We're going to go back into the codex, and we're going to look at a hero such as Calamity or Moonlight Dragons, another good example, their abilities provide a shield. So this one, Dark Space, grants the ally with the lowest HP a shield that absorbs up to 300, 450, or 600 damage. Essentially, the way a shield works, obviously it also mitigates damage. A shield increases the target hero's HP by that amount, essentially. And so it's not armor, it's not magic resist, it's just extra health that damage needs to eat through before it gets back to the hero's base health. So a shield is obviously very, very useful in game. Now, the one other thing that affects damage, so this is, or that's related to damage, I should say, all of the damage I've been talking about is heroes dealing damage to heroes. But what about when the round ends and you've actually lost health or dealt health to the enemy that you're facing? How does that damage work? And I've got a spreadsheet here and we can talk about that here. So this is how end of round damage to players works. You've got your different modes here, classic, turbo, and speedy draft, and the maximum health or HP that you start with. So in classic and speedy draft, you as an individual character start with 100 health, and in turbo at 60. And then this is how much damage each of the heroes do once that round ends and they're still on the board. Now we know that pets no longer do any damage, so you can ignore any of the summons, any of the pets. They don't do damage to an actual opposing hero once the round ends. They just do extra damage during the round to the heroes on the board. If you have a 1-cost hero, a 2-cost hero, a 3-cost hero, a 4, or obviously a legendary, these are the various amounts of damage that it will do at the end of the round. Classic and turbo, they're the exact same. All of these values across the board are the exact same for classic and turbo, depending on what the cost of the hero is and what the star rating is. It is higher for speedy draft, so it's worth keeping that in mind. So a 1-cost hero alive at the end of a classic or turbo game that's 1 star will deal 1 damage to the losing player, all the way up to 3 damage. The 2-cost is the same, 1, 2, or 3, but then things start to increase. 3 and 4-cost heroes deal 2, 3, or 4, depending on their star rating, and a 5-cost hero will deal 3, 4, or 5 damage, depending on its star rating. And all of these values are increased for speedy draft. Now it's worth noting that while the jump from a 1 star to a 2 star is 1, it actually jumps by 2 when you get to the 3-star version of a hero in speedy draft. So speedy draft 3-star heroes actually do more damage if you're comparing it to the 1 and 2-cost versions. That's definitely worth keeping in mind, although I'm sure you're trying to 3-star as many heroes as you reasonably can anyway. So that's the way that end of round damage works to players, and I've gone through how in-game damage works when talking about heroes fighting heroes during the battle. I am going to leave a link to this Chess Rush Damage Season 5 chart. It's just using Google spreadsheet, so if you would like to access that and use it as a resource, check in the description down below for that link. If you've got any questions about how the round damage works or the way that the battle damage works, please leave them in the comments below. It is a little bit different to how things used to work earlier, but essentially the core of it is the same. I hope that's made sense. It's a slightly confusing topic to talk about, but I think I've covered it pretty comprehensively there. As I touched on, the only thing that we're a little bit unsure on is the exact armor values on each of the heroes, because they're not perfectly scaled. It's not a percentage out of 100 like magic resist and things like that, but it's still very, very good to know, because it just allows you to better equip items and have a better understanding of how the game works, which obviously is going to lead to you performing better overall. So thank you so much for checking out this video. I really appreciate that. Please subscribe if you haven't already. It definitely helps me and my channel grow, and it means you don't miss out on any of my future content. And until next time, I'll see you later.